Hello everybody and welcome to the research paper video. So the purpose of this video is to help you write a much better research paper, especially in the online classes. I don't have the time or the ability for many of you to actually go and teach you other than in a video how to do a research paper. So there won't be a lot of give and take on the questions. But what I'm hoping is that the resources I've given you in the website there will actually allow you to go ahead and do well on these videos. Now, the first thing I want you to do, because I'm going to try to keep this video as brief as I can. However, this is an involved project and you probably have questions and I'm going to try to answer them all in this video. This video is not going to be like a little 5-minute video. This is going to take a little time. So the first thing I want you to do is go into the research paper and open these documents and print them if you want to. But even if you don't print them, at least have them open and minimized in your window. Because for the duration of this video, I'm just going to basically be talking to the camera. And I know that that can probably get a little boring for you. So go ahead, open up those videos, and or not videos, I should say, open up these documents. And what you want to do is go into the research paper folder and open up, first of all, the instructions. And they're going to look something like this. And they're going to have the due dates on the top. And then they're going to have the notes. And they're going to have everything else that you need to know. There'll probably be a little note saying that I'm going to shut down Dropbox at a certain time. And it'll have the rubric and everything like that in it. So open up those instructions. Also in that very same video, there should be a document for using the cite tool and creating a hanging indent. Now, that's going to be more important. That document's going to be more important in the annotated bibliography video. But it wouldn't hurt you to go ahead and open it now. And then I've got a PowerPoint slideshow that I think will help you with this paper, which is incorporating research. So how do you actually take the research that you've done and put in your annotated bibliography and actually put that in a paper? That is something that is very important. So that PowerPoint slideshow can help you. The other thing to open up is go into the MLA folder after that. In the MLA folder, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look at the 2009 MLA style guide. Now, I am aware of the fact that MLA is making some changes and that they are going to probably be in effect by the time you see this video. But that style guide is still something that we can use for now. Because what I'm going to show you is actually the parts where you actually do the quotations. Then there will be a document on quoting poetry if you should choose to write about a poem, or one on quoting prose. That's quoting anything other than a poem, essentially. So that can be primary sources like a short story, or that can be secondary sources like the criticism that you would read about these short stories. Assuming that this is a literature class. In 1102, all you're going to be using is secondary sources. And the primary source. So, I'm sorry, in English 1101 is the one where you're only going to use secondary sources. But 1102 and the literature courses, you'll be quoting from primary and secondary sources. So if you're not going to do a poem, the quoting poetry is probably not going to help you for the research paper, even though it did help you on the poetry paper. But the prose one will help you regardless. All right, so I'm going to pause here for a second so you can hit the pause button and you can open up all those documents. So again, in the research paper, that's the instructions, that's the using the cite tool, that's the incorporating research PowerPoint slideshow, and in the MLA folder, it's the style guide, the quoting poetry, and the quoting prose. Alright, so I'm hoping you've got those open. So we're going to start mainly with this, the instructions for the actual paper. So we're going to look at that. Pay close attention to this timeline. Pay close attention to the due dates. This will be the most time-consuming assignment of the semester. It'll be the most work-intensive one. And it's important that you stay on these due dates, because if you fall behind on this, you're going to have a hard time getting caught up throughout the paper. So look at that. The first due date will be in annotated bibliography. Then there will be a first draft due. Now, if you're in an online class, after you submit the first draft, you'll have to look online for my comments to help you with your paper, unless you want to call me during my office hours or visit my office if you happen to live in the Albany area and then we can go over it together that way. But if you're going to make me write my comments out, it's going to take some time. But make sure that you get that done on the due date, because that way I can go ahead and get started on that. Then, of course, there's conferences, especially if you're in a face-to-face class instead of an online class. You and I will meet in conferences that way. The online students might get written comments, but the face-to-face are going to get the actual conference time with me. And then you'll have usually on average about a week or so to get the final draft done. So get that final draft in on time. Notice that I've probably got in your instructions saying something about the Dropbox, especially if it's the end of the semester, the Dropbox will shut down. And the reason for that is I've got to grade all these papers in time to submit your grade to the registrar. And by grade, I don't mean on the paper, I mean your overall grade. So I will also be buried under research papers for other classes and final exams. So once that Dropbox shuts down, I'm not going to take any excuses. You'll get a 0 if you don't have it in by then. So pay close attention to those due dates, especially that final draft due date. You should really hit every due date so that you can turn in a better quality paper. One thing that I have found is that those students who do not follow the due dates and who decide to do everything all at once usually get lower grades, and the reason for that is that the quality of their paper is lower. So by following these due dates, I can give you whatever help you need to get that grade raised up a little bit. All right. Also take a look at the page length. Note that if there's a page number, say in this case, in this one I got 4 to 6 pages, the works cited page is not one of those pages. That's a totally separate page. So to turn in a 3-page essay with a works cited page does not fulfill the 4-word requirement. I've also tried to have a word count on there for you as well. All right. Now, what I do in both my English 1101, both my English 1102 and literature courses is I have my students actually do research on a paper they've already written. So in English 1102, it could be research to supplement your poetry paper or your prose paper. In the literature courses, then it's research to supplement one of your postings. So whatever you posted on, to expand upon that through research. If you're in my English 1101 class, you're pretty much doing research and starting a paper almost from scratch. So what you're doing here, if you're in my English 1101 or literature class, you're not writing a new paper unless your research makes you write a new paper. You do this research and you say, oh, I was way off base on my paper, then of course you'll have to write a whole new paper. But if you do your research and you find stuff to supplement what you were doing in the first place, then you're going to get a chance to add that research to your paper and make it that much stronger. And that's why we do research papers. We do research papers to strengthen your argument by bringing experts in who are going to back you up, or as they say, have your back. When you do that, then you're going to actually have a much stronger paper for it. Okay. All right, so literary scholars, or in English 1101, experts, these are usually going to be people who have published in books from good academic publishers. Usually if you see a university blank press, then there's a pretty good chance that that's a good academic book. Or you might want to look in peer-reviewed articles. Again, when you go to the annotated bibliography video, you'll hear more about that. So, don't go to Wikipedia, don't go to SparkNotes, don't go to anything where you can buy a paper with a credit card and call that research. Even if you cite those sites properly, you still haven't done any real research. You got to use the library's resources, and those are done through Gill and Galileo. So, on this instruction sheet, I've got a listing of sites you're forbidden from quoting from. All right. So what sources can you use? I've just explained that. Know what the Galileo password is if you're not on campus. If you're in the library, you're in the computer lab in Building A, you'll probably be okay. If you're at home, you're at Starbucks. If you happen to get a Wi-Fi somewhere in the woods while you're camping or whatever, you're going to need to know what the password is. All right. So the assignments, tape something you've written before. Go into Darton's library's homepage. Go either to Gill to find books, and then you'll get those from the library, or go into Galileo to find articles, and those you can read online. You don't have to come to the library and pick those articles up. You can read the article online. A minimum of 3. A minimum of 3. If you only give me 2, you're going to lose a lot of points on your paper. So give me a minimum of 3. This does not include your primary source if you're in English 1101 or 1102. So This does not mean, let's say you wrote a paper on A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. This does not mean that you can give me A Rose for Emily and 2 outside sources and call it 3 sources. That is 3 outside sources. So you need A Rose for Emily and 3 additional sources, so you'd have a total of 4. If you're in My English 1101, then 3 is 3. But literature and English 1102, that's 3 secondary sources, not the primary source and 2 outside. All right. And then you're going to incorporate that in. How do you incorporate that in? We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so what do I expect from this essay? Notice that I put it right here. My expectations are in bold. I do expect that your research will supplement your argument and not actually dominate it. When you turn your paper in, there should be a number for you from Turnitin.com that's known as an originality report. That number will tell me how much of that came from your research, or how much of your paper came from your research. It doesn't mean you've plagiarized, as long as you've cited your sources properly, you've got a works cited page, you've formatted your quotes properly. It doesn't mean you've plagiarized. It means that Turnitin.com has seen this before somewhere. Now, if you're doing direct quotes, then of course, especially if those direct quotes come from good sources, credible sources, then of course Turnitin.com will have seen it before. Now, the number here that you want to shoot for is somewhere between 15 and 20%. So only about 15 to 20% of your paper should come from outside sources. Everything else is you. Everything else is what you have to say about your particular subject. I've had students turn in papers with 80%, 85% from outside sources. And they did it properly. They formatted their quotes properly. They cited them properly. They had a great works cited page. But 85% of their paper came from outside sources and did not come from the student, his or herself. That is unacceptable. I want to see it a very nice low number. I don't want to see 2% because that means you didn't use your research at all. If you have 5%, basically you got a works cited page, but you didn't do your research at all. Use direct quotes. You may paraphrase or summarize as long as, and you'll see it in the quoting prose handout, as long as I know where you start summarizing, paraphrasing, and where you end it at. But it's important that I know that. So, you definitely need to keep the research as a supplement, not have your research be your paper. The paper is still your paper. All right. I do not want any kind of a story or poem or essay summary. That, of course, comes from the earlier papers you've read. And then, of course, you're going to format your paper in logos, not pathos or ethos. You can go, if you don't know what those 3 terms mean, you can put them into a Google search. They come from Aristotle, but essentially the short version of this story is logos is based on logic, and that's what I want your paper to be based in. Ethos is ethics of the speaker or expertise of the speaker. And then you've got pathos, which is emotion. You do not want to base your paper in emotion. You want to base your paper in logic. I do expect direct quotes, especially from your story or poem, but also from your outside sources. Use those and then use specific details. You don't want to be vague. Okay, so those are my expectations, and they're spelled out for you right here in these instructions. So you don't have to ask me, what do you expect or what are you looking for? There it is. Then your rubric will also tell you, and the rubric is the next part of these instructions. So rubric, what am I going to be scoring your essay based upon? Well, here's the criteria. Quality of sources. I will take off a lot of points if I see that you used Google as your search terms. You want to use the library's resources. You do not want to use Google. All right. If all of your sources come from Google, then that'll be an automatic F. You have to actually use Galileo or Gill. So, all sources from Google, automatic F, end of discussion. The formatting, you've already done this in most of your papers. If you have not done these in my class, I do have a Creating an MLA template handout in the actual MLA folder that will show you how to format your margins properly, your spacing properly, your font properly, your header properly. That's 6 points. That should be an easy 6 points if you follow all those instructions. If your paper is formatted perfectly in MLA format, 6 out of 6, done and done. All right? Thesis statement. Your thesis statement should still be your thesis statement. A thesis statement is not something like, oh, other experts say. No. The thesis statement is your thesis statement. What do you have to say about your particular topic? Don't give me a paper about what other experts say, because if I want to know that, I'll go read the other experts. The thesis statement is what you have to say about the short story, about the poem, or about the current event topic that the 1101 students write about. All right. And you can look there. It should be clear. It should be spoken with conviction, on and on. Organization and structure. This goes to, does your essay have a clear beginning, a clear middle, and a clear conclusion? So you should have a nice opening that leads up to your thesis statement. You should have good organization in the body of the essay. This is where you take your main points and you organize everything so that main point 1, you say everything you have to say about main point 1. Main point 2, say everything you have to say about main point 2. 3, and if that's usually going to be all you need in this paper, but if you have a 4th or a 5th or whatever. So there should be good organization. Everything should go with everything. And then you should have a nice conclusion. You don't want me to think that you've ended your essay in the middle of the essay. There should be a nice conclusion that ties everything up in a neat little bow. The short version of what a conclusion does is it can either summarize or it can emphasize. Now, there are other things that conclusions can do also, such as warn or forecast or predict or anything like that. But for the purposes of these papers, your essay conclusion should either summarize what you've already said, or it should emphasize something that you want the reader to take away from your paper. So that's all going to fall under structure. All right, main points. And you'll see that I use baseball examples in your paper. The main point is the big reasons why your thesis is going to be true. So you'll see in the baseball one there, let's say I think that a certain team is going to win the World Series. So I'll say, the Atlanta Braves are going to win the World Series. Don't laugh. I'm just using this as an example. But the Atlanta Braves will win the World Series. The main points would be what a lot of people talk about. Either, they've got good pitching, they've got good hitting, they've got good fielding. Okay? Now, if this is a down year for the Braves, please try not to chuckle too much. If this is a good year for the Braves, then yeah, exactly. All right, but here's the thing. Those are your main points. The pitching is a main point, the hitting is a main point, the fielding is a main point. Your essay should have some main points that you're going to explore and you're going to develop through the next part, which is supporting details. So, details are things like statistics, specific examples, anything that helps to prove the main point. So, if I've got strong pitching, and I won't go through all 3 of these, but I'll use pitching as an example. The starters have the lowest ERA in the league. For those of you that don't follow baseball, starting pitchers are the ones that are the first pitcher in a game. They pitch the first inning, and they get out at the second inning, and so on and so forth. ERA stands for earned run average, and I don't want to explain what that means, but essentially the lower the number of the ERA, the better the pitcher. So of all the starters, the people that start these games, have the lowest ERA of any starting group in any team, then that's good. You want that. Middle relief has a lot of powerful arms. These guys can take a baseball and throw them through a brick wall. That's not always going to help, but we're going to say in this case, yes, the middle relief comes in, they blow batters away. And then Jim Fireball, the closer, has not blown a save all year. So again, for those of you that don't follow baseball, the closer is essentially the last pitcher in the game. If he comes in with a lead, he closes the game and gets what's known as a save if he gets the outs that he needs and the game ends and his team still has a lead. So that is a save. A blown save means that the pitcher gave up enough runs that the other team tied the score or the other team took the lead and possibly won the game. So you don't want to blow saves. And if this pitcher all year long has not blown a save, he's probably one of the best in the league. Now, forget about baseball here. Notice that my main point was pitching. Then I have my specific details. I used names, I used statistics, I used specific examples. That's the supporting details. Your essay should have some good supporting details to back up your main points on every main point. And that's all I have to say about that. Quotations formatting. Again, there are 2 handouts in your MLA folder. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's your MLA folder. Let's see. Yes, two handouts in your MLA folder. One on quoting poetry, one on quoting prose. I put those in there because I did not like the way that other sources told you how to cite and quote. So I went ahead and did that for you. Now, if my handouts don't make any sense to you, you do have other options. such as if you go to Darton, My Blank English Book. There's a whole chapter on MLA formatting in there. The Purdue OWL is an excellent resource. I've actually got a link to the Purdue OWL in your page under the Helpful Web Links folder. So, use that Purdue OWL if my little handouts don't help you. But I'm designing my handouts to be just as helpful as Purdue OWL if possible. So, quotation and citation formatting. Those have to be perfect to get all 10. If you have all kinds of mistakes, let's say you've got a four-line quote and you put it in short quote instead of block quote, points come off. If you don't cite your sources at all, or if you cite them incorrectly, those come off your grade. So, format them properly. And then use of quotations. Not only do you have to format your quotations properly, but there has to be a reason for that quote to be in your essay. Do not stick a bunch of quotes in your essay because Mr. Smith requires that you have quotations. That is the wrong reason to have quotations in there, and usually those quotes don't make any sense. You know, I'm sitting here scratching my head going, why is that there? I should not be scratching my head going, why is that there? You want to use your quotes effectively. Your quote should in some way, shape, or fashion back your points up. Again, look in the quotations formatting handouts. I will show you how to incorporate those very smoothly. So, your quotes should not be in there because I require quotes. Your quotes should be in there because they help your cause in some way, shape, or fashion. The works cited page. There's a whole nother video that I put out about putting together an annotated bibliography. I also had you open that using the cite tool thing in case you didn't watch that video. If you have an effective annotated bibliography, then all you're going to need to do to have a perfect score on the works cited page and get the full 10 points of credit out of those 10 points is to delete your annotations, change the words annotated bibliography to works cited, copy, paste, done. The works cited page should be on its own separate page. It should not be at the bottom of the essay. It should be a page after the essay. So if you have a 5-page essay, works cited page should be page 6. If you have a 6-page essay, works cited page should be page 7. Should be its own page. You can use the insert page break feature on your Word program. If you don't know how to do it, just go to the help screen in Word and ask how to insert a page break. And that will allow you to have the works cited page in the right spot, regardless of how much you add or subtract from your essay. So you definitely want to use that to your advantage. That works cited page, again, a perfect annotated bibliography, converts into a perfect works cited page, should be no problem. And finally, the surface errors. You need to show me that you can write on a collegiate level. I need to be able to see that you can spell your words properly. I need to know that you can make your subjects and verbs agree. I need to know that you know how to use commas properly. I need to know that you know how to use the correct pronouns. I need to know that you know, we can go on and on about this. I need to know that you only use apostrophes for contractions or for possession. You do not use apostrophes to create plural nouns. I need to know that you can do all of this. You can see that that's about a quarter of the grade, close to a quarter of the grade. That's how much stress I put on the actual being able to write without a lot of grammatical mistakes. If you turn in a paper and it's only got a mistake here or a mistake there, you may get all 24 points. If you turn in a paper and it's so full of errors that I'm too busy marking errors to read the paper, you're going to lose a whole lot of points. I have given students 0 out of 24 before because they had so many errors. So, proofread your paper. Edit your paper. Make sure that your words are spelled correctly. If you've got a there, or there, make sure you use the correct spelling of there. If you've got an its or an its, make sure you use the correct spelling of its. To, or to. Make sure you use the correct spelling of the word to. Make sure if you have a question in there, you have a question mark. Make sure that if you have a coordinating conjunction, there's a comma in front of it. You have to show me that you can write on a collegiate level to get a lot of points on that surface errors part. If you cannot, then you are going to end up losing a whole lot of points. And it could make the difference between a passing grade and a failing grade. So please, write with good grammar. Alright, that's everything I've got. So, that's how you can write an effective research paper. Use the resources I've got online for you. I put them in there to help you with this. Don't hesitate to send me an email or to give me a phone call or to drop by my office if you feel the need to ask more questions. I am more than happy to help you with this because the skills you're using in your research paper for this assignment, you're going to need to use again in future research papers, especially when you have to do research for your major. So, on that note, I hope you write an effective research paper. I hope this video has been helpful. I hope that the materials I have on D2L will be helpful. And I'm out.